Welcome to Saturday Morning Talk Show, Spilling the Tea to Juliet G. It's every Saturday from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. GMT time. Morning. Yes, I'm back. Morning blessings to one and all. It's another scintillating Saturday morning. Welcome to another exciting edition of your Saturday morning talk show, Spilling That Tea to Juliet G, on your number one community radio station, Supreme FM. And I'd like to apologize for last week. For those of you that were logged on and were wondering what was going on, yes, I'd like to apologize. I was going through some technical issues. So as you can see today, those technical issues are sorted. And I'd like to thank Goody for coming to my aid this morning. Apologies for leaving it to lastminute.com. It's not like me. I don't know. I'm sorry. But anyway, I'd also like to wish my last week's guest, Destiny Cadell, a speedy recovery as she wasn't well. And I do hope we can arrange something at a later date when you're feeling much more up to it. So, no matter what part of the globe you are tuning in from, I know people are tuned in from all over the globe, and they're listening in to this amazing talk show. Does it sound like I'm bigging up myself? My mother always used to say, if you don't praise yourself, who else will praise you? Yes, if you don't praise yourself, who else will praise you? This is me and my self-love. Now, thank you for giving me your listening ears for the next couple of hours. It's your host, Juliet G, where I converse with real people and get them to spill that tea. And that's a T with a double E, and talk their truth. Now, I hope you are all doing okay and taking advantage of the warm weather. Okay. Yes, warm weather, I said, because you never know how long it's going to last. And outside, it's sunny from where I am. So, for the next couple of hours, I have an action-packed show for you. I am so excited. I will be speaking to this month's winner of the Young People's Prize Draw. And his name is, wait for it, drum roll, ba, 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 ba. Well, if he was Nigerian, we'll call him Malechi, but he's not. So we will call him Malachi, however you want to say it, Malachi or Malechi, Dwight. And I'll be speaking to him shortly, along with his dad, who nominated him. And in addition, I will be in conversation with Judith Neptial, who was only given 1 year to live. Now, she will be sharing her highs and extremely dark moments with the dreaded C word. Now, for some of us, it will be a teachable moment, like myself, and for others, it will be like, that's what I went through. So, stay tuned and hear what Judith has to say about her cancer experience. Now, before I proceed any further, I'd like to just say a quick reminder that April's nominations are now out, right? So April's nominations are now out. So if you don't know what to do, I suggest you check out my social media platforms. That's Insta or Facebook. Now, you can nominate a young person between the ages of 7 and 11 years of age that are doing well in school or sport. There are 2 categories. And all you have to do is email me on stt2jg@gmail.com. That is stt2jg@gmail.com. And you can, as I said, check out my Insta, Facebook, or the Supreme FM business page for full details. And at the end of every month, 2 young people get to win a £10 voucher of their choice and a certificate of achievement. Now, I'd like to give a big shout out, as always, to my sponsor, Fine Boy Inc. Now, today is week 13 of the weekly financial challenge. So, we are saving £13 today, and we have a grand total of I haven't got any sound effects yet because nobody sponsored me, but this is what you're all going to listen to. Drum roll, £91 in the kitty. Yes, so we've saved now £91. So I have just a few community information before we get the show on the road. Now, the Homecoming Project is a free coaching and personal development program for those that have long-term disability. No. In the Lambeth area, but they will consider residents of Southwark, Croydon, Lewisham, Wandsworth, Westminster, Merton, and any surrounding areas. So if you are between the ages of 18 and 45 years of age, or know of anyone that fits the bill, check out my Insta page for registration details. Now, Reach Society are celebrating their 10th Careers Conference and are hosting a day when professional men in the Black community interact with young people between the ages of 13 plus on Tuesday, the 5th of April. This is an extraordinary opportunity for young people. You must register in advance via Eventbrite and have photo ID to gain admission. So, can your child afford to miss this free event, as you would need to register them? So please note, all under 16s must be accompanied by a responsible adult to attend. Now, on Saturday, the 9th of April, the National Maritime Museum opened their door at 10 a.m. to celebrate Black history and culture in Britain with the Caribbean Society Forum. As they are taking over the museum for the whole day, there will be activities, performance and talks discovering the fusions of cultures from Africa and the Caribbean and Europe. So please support and attend this event, and don't forget to share this information with your friends and family. And all this information that I'm sharing will be on my Facebook and Insta pages and the Supreme FM. Now, I have very, 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 very important information for all UK residents. On Thursday, the 31st of March, everyone needs to take a gas and meter reading, regardless of what meter you have. Ideally, a photo of both meter readings showing the readings and the meter serial numbers. Then you need to submit that to your energy supplier right away. And if for whatever reason you're not able to submit it on the day, you should have a photo evidence of the date it was taken, because from Friday the 1st of April, the new off-gem energy price cap comes into force. And that is when they're going to start billing you at a higher energy rate. So that means that if you take your meter reading and you submit that, you will not be charged at the higher rate. You will now be charged at the lower rate. And then from the 1st of April, you'll be charged at the normal rate. So don't forget, next week, Thursday, put a reminder in your phone if need be, right? Because it's really important that you do. So on that note, you know what I like to do. I like to bring on my sister's son, who will be giving us our prayer for the day before we start. So just bear with. Dear
Lord God, as we come together again today to listen in, to spilling the tea to Juliet G, I give you thanks. Thank you for waking us, waking me, waking all the listeners today. This is a blessing, a privilege that we have from you. So as we listen in to Judith today, as she shares her experience, let us listen keenly. Let us learn from her experience, and I lift her up to you. Continue to watch over us, continue to be with us. All that's happening at the moment, all the crisis, local in Hackney, crisis further away, crisis in South London, all parts, all areas. Dear Lord God, all of these things I put before you. I hand over this program to you, dear Lord God, to ask for your blessings. So as we continue to enjoy and share the stories that we hear, as we spill the tea to Juliet G, I say thank you, dear Lord God, for giving us this opportunity. In Jesus' name, I lift these few words up to you as I continue to humble myself in your precious name. Amen.
Bumper to bumper, like LA in traffic. I write the lyrics, she made the captions. Who gon' direct you with all them theatrics? But course. Ain't that the way it's supposed to be? Supposed to be. It's supposed to be. Yeah. Here with me. Here with me. Yeah. 'Cause you're here with me.
Wait.
Like New York and traffic, I make the features and do all the casting. Who gon' direct me with all these theatrics?
But of course,
Go ahead and roll one, ain't gotta pass it. I play the role, but this ain't no acting. The show is over, but we can't be canceled.
but of course, ain't that the way it's supposed to be? Supposed to be. Supposed to be. It's supposed to be. Yeah. Here with me. Here with me. Cause you're here with me.
Give me more than sex, yeah, I need to connect. Don't wanna wake up in the morning feeling sad and regretful. Don't wanna press, but when it's us, want you to make me feel special.
But of course,
Give me more than sex, yeah, I need to connect. Don't wanna wake up in the morning feeling sad and regretful. Don't wanna press, but when it's us, want you to make me feel special.
but of course, ain't that the way it's supposed to be? Supposed to be. It's supposed to be. Yeah. Here with me. Here with me. Cause you're here with me.
God has a funny way of showing you lessons. Remix. Featuring Kevin Ross. Raheem Devon.
Malachi Diet, yeah? Okay.
God has a funny way of showing what it's meant to be. Had to learn everything I was meant to.
Welcome back to Spilling That Tea to Juliet G. Now, I have my winner on the line. So, in fact, I think I have his dad on the line. Stephen Diet.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Good.
I'm
And
outside,
it-
enjoying the rays and so forth. So yeah, we're in a good place.
is Malachi there?
He is. Still with
Okay.
me.
Can I speak to Malachi first?
Yes. Yeah.
Good morning.
Good morning, Malachi. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm very... Oh, thank you for asking. Thank you. I'm very well, thank you. How old are you, Malachi, so that the listeners know how old you are?
I'm 11.
You're 11 years old.
Yes.
Do you know why your dad nominated you?
Not exactly.
Not exactly.
No.
You don't know. So you don't know what he said about you?
I'm not completely sure what he said.
Okay. Can you pass the phone over to your dad first so that I can speak to your dad, and then I'll speak to you in a sec, yeah?
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Hello.
Morning, Stephen. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you.
Now, Stephen, can you just let the listeners know why you nominated your son?
Okay. Yep. It's because in the last 2 years, generally in the pandemic, Malachi's resilience and just his ability to get on and do regardless has been amazing. We had his school report just the other day, and that was excellent. And it blew me away. That's all I can say. I wasn't sure what we were gonna get, but when we got it, it just made us so proud as parents. And then we spoke to his teacher, and again, what a glowing reflection upon our son. And the teacher said the only thing that he could say, and he said he couldn't believe that he's saying this, is that Malachi's a perfectionist. So he takes time, diligence, and maybe that could go against him in exams because it's taking too long to answer the question and put too much detail in. But obviously, that's something that we can work on with him and just try and get him like speed up when he's doing his stuff. But apart from that, all we can do is give thanks
Amen to
each and
that.
every day.
Ah, that's really nice. Now, can you pass the phone back to
Yep,
Malachi, please?
yep.
Thank you.
Hello.
Well done, Malachi. So now you know what your dad said about you, yeah?
Yeah.
And hence that's why you're my winner.
Thank
So
you.
you are now in the grand final along with Roche Hope and Emil Best for education. And at the moment, we only have one person. I can't believe it. One person for sport, and that's Ruben Adeyomi. Now, all the winners get to win all the winners get an opportunity to win a trophy with their name on it, a £50 voucher of their choice, and a certificate of achievement. And I will be speaking to you again on Christmas Eve. So get your winning statement ready, because I'm going to be speaking to... Initially, I said I was going to do a recording, but I've decided that we will have time and all the young people can write their statement and put it out to the listeners, and the listeners are going to do the voting, not me. So the listeners, I put the winners together, but the winners now have to battle it out for the trophy. Okay?
Okay.
So what are you going to do today?
I'm going to probably go and play basketball with my dad.
Oh, that's good. So you're a basketball player
Yeah.
and a perfectionist.
Uh-huh.
When's your birthday?
March 23rd.
Oh, so you just had a birthday.
Yep.
Happy belated birthday.
Thank you.
Good. So you take care of yourself.
You too.
Yeah. And if you can pass the phone over to your daddy.
Okay.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. I'll speak to you Christmas Eve.
Hello.
Hi, Stephen. Did you hear?
Hello.
So I will be speaking to Malachi, like with all the other winners, on the 24th of December. Okay?
Okay. All right. No
So
problem.
you have a fabulous day.
You too.
And
And thank you for the positive things you're doing for the young people, because, we just need to celebrate you. You said no one will celebrate you, but we celebrate you, and I'm sure everyone in the
Listen,
community
my mum
appreciates what you do.
always used to say that if you don't praise yourself, who else will praise you? And it's not being big-headed, but
No,
you know,
no,
you
no.
do have to, because it's all about the self-love. So if it doesn't come from within, then how are you supposed to give out positivity?
Well, you do, and we appreciate and we thank you for what you're doing.
Thank
And
you.
keep up the good work.
Thank you so much. You take care and have a good day, yeah?
All right.
All
Bye.
right then, take care. Bye. Welcome back to Spilling That Tea to Juliet G on supremefmlive.ning.com. Without further ado, I want to bring on my guest, Judith Neptial. Neptial?
Yes, Neptial. Hi, Juliet. And I'd like to say good morning to everybody. Thank you for having me.
Hold on. Can you... Why is it so low? You sound really low. Hold on.
Okay.
That's
try.
better.
Hi, is that better?
Yeah, that's better.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, no, hi, Juliet. Thank you for having me.
You are most welcome. Now, Judith was diagnosed with stomach cancer, and then she was told that she only has 1 year to live. Can you imagine? She says with a really strong Nigerian accent, but it wasn't coming out this morning that way. Well, Judith is still here to tell her truth. Now, welcome, Judith. How are you?
Oh, I'm very good at the moment, Juliet. Thank you. You know, obviously, my diagnosis happened in around about 2018.
Judith, before
Yeah.
you go into it, are you normally up this early on a Saturday morning?
If I have to be honest, not if I can help it.
Okay, so you were up because of moi.
I am definitely out for you, but I'm definitely going to make that a habit because I was listening to you and I was listening to the that young man on before,
Ma-
Malachi.
Malachi. Wasn't he
Yeah, he was
amazing?
he was adorable. He was such a lovely young man, you know. It's quite inspiring to know that we've got young people, coming through like that who are just absolutely awesome. I mean, you just think he's going to be a phenomenal man when he grows up.
Absolutely. You know,
Yeah.
absolutely. I feel, do you know, when I hear young people like that, it makes me feel really good because
Yeah.
when I get older, I feel like when I become a pensioner, that they're going to look after me. They're going to make sure that
Well,
my best interest, they're going to fight, they're going to fight our corner. Am I being
well,
selfish?
absolutely. No, absolutely. It instills, it definitely instills confidence, much more confidence because you hear so many negative stories about young
Absolutely. We
people in the
do.
press. And I think we need to do what you're doing, which is applaud them when they do well. We have to celebrate that. It's
All the
amazing.
time, all the time. You know, I'm all
For
about the
sure.
young people. Now, Judith, before we proceed any further and get into the crux of why you're here
Yeah.
to spill your tea and talk your truth, can you introduce yourself to the listeners and tell them a little bit about Judith, like where you grew up and so on and so forth?
Okay, so my name's Judith Neptial and I was brought up in East London. For those of you that know Forest Gate and Stratford, I went to St Angela's. For St Angela's in Forest Gate. I'm I'm a single mother of one, and yeah, I used to be a psych before starting on my journey with cancer. I was a psychotherapist and phlebotomist. So yeah, that was basically my life.
What was it like growing up? Were you popular in school?
That's all a matter of opinion, isn't it, or perspective? Um, I think I definitely had friends who were very popular, you know. I wouldn't say that I was necessarily, but I definitely, yeah, my friendship group were very, yeah, popular. They were all very vibrant girls, you know.
Yeah.
They had a lot of personality, which is great, you know.
Did you like school?
I did actually. I went to an all girls school and I really enjoyed that whole process because I think what that did was that it enabled me to go to school and to basically just to focus on education. You know, we didn't really have the distraction of boys, not until after 3:15 anyway.
Tell me about it because I used to live at the top of, or rather, I used to live, well, very close to St Angela's, and they always, St Bon's and St Angela's always used to converge at the bottom of Ismailia Road or at the top
Yeah,
end of
absolutely.
Ismailia Road.
Yeah.
And there was a off license, which is still there. And there used to be
Yeah.
these sweetie shops. And
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I know what you're going to say.
and then that you couldn't pass there. You
No,
couldn't pass
I
them.
know.
And it
It
was
used to
always
be,
there.
yes,
Brown
absolutely.
uniform.
No, we used to all congregate there, but what really strikes in my memory, and I don't think many St Angela's girls are going to thank me for remembering this, was that every other school in the neighbourhood could go into that off licence, but it had a big sign up that said St Angela's girls only two at a time. And I always remember that, when I go past there. Definitely fond memories, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Judith, let's
Mm.
get into this, yeah? When did you first realise that something was wrong?
I think, if I'm being honest, I really knew quite a few years before, but I just didn't know what the issue was. I I was constantly tired. I was, I'd fall asleep wherever. And then I started to, my appetite went, my stomach felt bloated. And and then lastly, I started to lose weight. But that was probably in around about, all of this started to happen in about 2015, 2000, that I noticed anyway.
Can you just
Um,
tell the listeners what kind of cancer you had?
yeah, I have bile duct cancer, which is a stomach cancer. And basically, I don't know if everybody knows, but predominantly the black community suffer. It's one of our worst killers with cancer, anyway. Stomach cancers, our stomach cancers. But I didn't actually know that. Um, I definitely wasn't aware of the symptoms. Um, so yeah, I had, and what was really, I say quite frustrating looking back now, is that I exhibited all of the signs, loss of weight, fatigue, and bloatedness of the stomach. It's almost like a picture postcard of cancer symptoms, but I didn't know. And considering that stomach cancer is one of our biggest killers, um, I look back now and I find that extremely frustrating that, that within the community, I don't know how many of us know, maybe a lot more people know than what I thought. But definitely the people that I knew in my circle weren't aware of that. It didn't, there were no red flags that I associated with that. But there should have been. There really should have been. Because, something that kills predominantly our community at quite a high rate, we should be aware,
Yeah.
you know.
What tests and procedures did you have to undergo beforehand?
I actually had, because I was born with an underlying stomach condition. I'd always been under a consultant, at a major London hospital. So when I started to get, show those symptoms, I was tired all of the time. I not only went to my GP, but I also went to my consultant. And I asked, I was quite forward in asking for, like, can we look at this? I had blood tests, I had scans, and I was constantly told that there wasn't an issue, and it felt a bit like ping pong or table tennis, in that I'd go to my GP and my GP would just basically say, you need to go and speak to your consultant. And I would go to my consultant, and my consultant would say, well, you need to speak to your GP. It's nothing to do with us. There was no accountability at any point between them. You know, it was quite, when I look back on it now, it was actually quite horrendous. The to-ing and fro-ing and nobody being willing to say, look, we're going to look into this. We're taking you seriously. We understand that something's wrong and we are going to look into it. There was nothing like that.
So when you were told those dreaded words, you have cancer, and you were given about a year to live, can you remember what your reaction was and who was with you, or was you by yourself?
My daughter was there. I don't remember if my brothers were there or not, or any of my friends, because what I do remember is that I'd woken up from surgery, and there was, it's never a good sign when there are like loads of doctors at the bottom of your bed.
Okay.
And that was my first warning that something wasn't right. And then I looked at them, and they all looked really quite, miserable, or they didn't. They looked like they would rather be anywhere else but at the bottom of my bed. And then I remember them saying that, and at that point, that the doctor turned around and said to me, you have cancer. And I said, how long? And they was like, well, under a year. I remember I felt like a blackness. I felt like I was actually, like a black fog just coming up over me. And I remember thinking, I can't breathe. And then I remember thinking, dear God, please help me get through this because I can't deal with this. And from the minute, and I'm being really honest, from the minute I said those words, there was a calmness, and I thank God for that every day. Um, I really do, because I don't know how I got through that moment, other than by the grace of God. Because there was that voice in the back of my head that said, "Don't listen, don't worry, everything's going to be okay." And that's what I clung to. I clung to that.
Did you at any point think you were going to die, or I haven't even got my affairs in order?
I had the thought that I definitely had the thought that, oh my God, I've I've got to I've got to like organize. But what I also remember thinking was, I am not. I remember the doctor saying, and as soon as those words from it transmitted that, you've got under a year, I remember thinking in my head, he's got the wrong person. And then I remember thinking, no, I will not. And that was purely that my daughter was there. She was about 18 or 19 at that time. And I remember looking at her. And at that point, if I'm being really honest, it wasn't about me. It was the fact that I was damned if I was going to leave my my child in this world without me. Not at that stage. That was an impossible thought. It definitely wasn't a thought that I was willing to accept. So I think, it was too much. And at that point, I just shut down. I shut down completely.
Yeah. As a woman, right, and I say woman because we have all types of women listening from all different nationalities, but as a woman and a black woman, where your hair is your crown and glory, which is the name of my company, was you scared of losing your hair?
Yeah, I mean, funny enough, I had a really horrible experience. I remember them saying to me, with the treatment and everything, that hair loss could possibly be a thing, And so I had it in my mind. And although you're told that, from my perspective, you're told it, but being told it and actually experiencing it are two different things, And what I remember is that, because I was fine for my first round of chemotherapy, I was, I had no hair loss. I was absolutely fine. For the second round, by the second cycle, I remember washing my hair, and I was over the bath and I was washing. And as I started to wash it, I remember my hair was just coming out in my hands. And then I pulled another, and I remember thinking, this isn't right. And I touched another part, pulled another part, and it just came out. And the shock, I can't explain to you what that felt like. The fear, because it's all, your hair is everything to do, especially as a black woman, it's to do with our identity. It's who we are, and hair is a massive thing. And unfortunately, as black women, we need to realise that our hair does not define us. It doesn't define who you are, or your beauty. So as my hair started to come out in my hands, I remember I sat back and I just I broke down. I broke down uncontrollably. And then I remember thinking, because I'm that type of person, I remember thinking, right, I'm not going to sit here and then it just fall out like this. I'm going to cut it. I'm going to absolutely go and cut it. I'm going to take control. I think at that point, that was my way of taking control of the situation. And I remember going to, and I'm going to say this hesitantly, but I'm going to say it because I want the community to understand, and if this ever happens to anybody else, I don't want them to go through the same experience that I went through. I got in my car and I went to, where the local barbers are. Because I remember thinking, should I go to a hairdresser? And then I thought, well, they're going to cut it off anyway. So I'm better off going to a guy's, barber shop. So not thinking, because I wasn't thinking rationally. I got up, got in the car, went and found a barber's. There was a row of them, and I naturally went to the black barbers. And I walked in, and I was quite embarrassed. I had a hat on, and it's not really where you want to be. And there were men in there, which again, that whole feeling of not feeling attractive, feeling less of a woman, you know, all of those feelings and thoughts were in my head. And then I said to him, I need to cut my hair. And he kind of looked at me and he was like, well, what's wrong with you? What do you need? And I was like, well, my hair's falling out. Do you think you could cut it? And I just took my hat off. And I looked at him and I was like, do you think you could cut it? And he looked at me and he kind of said, well, I can't do that.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, sorry. And he just looked at me and he was like, no, I'm busy. I've got too many people. And the guys in the shop kind of, because obviously my hat was off, they looked and then they looked down because it's embarrassing, And I remember feeling so broken and so humiliated. And I came out and there was another barber's 2 doors down. And I was actually crying as I kind of came out. And it was a Turkish guy, I'll never forget it. And he came out and he kind of looked at me and he went, are you all right? And I said, well, no, my hair's fallen. And he went, come, I'll cut it for you. And the reason why I'm telling you that story is because I think in our community, I don't know why that barber did that to me. But what I do realise is maybe he was uncomfortable. Maybe he didn't know how to address it. But I think, when dealing with people who are vulnerable and in situations like that, I think we need to have a bit more love. And even if we don't know how to express ourselves or it's uncomfortable, we have to address it with love.
Yeah, that kind of like
that can break someone.
That kind of like leads me on to my next question is, do you think there is a stigma attached to having cancer or telling people that you have cancer?
In our community?
Yeah. But
yeah,
I think,
absolutely.
I don't only think that it's only just our community. I think it's just with anybody. Because, but I think because it's just us, like we relate to us. We think it's only happening to us. But if you look at other communities, they go through the same thing. But most probably in a slightly different way. But they go through the same thing. I think they go through that stigma.
I think other communities do go through it. I think there's a stigma. There is definitely a stigma. But yeah, you're right. But I do think that in our community, it's very prevalent. That's what I would say. I'm not saying that we're the only community who doesn't address it, but I would say that it is very prevalent. And I think it's definitely something that we need to look at and we need to change. Because, Juliet, the issue is that from my perspective, if we're not talking about it, we're not addressing it.
Absolutely.
And if we're not addressing it, people are dying, and that's what we need to recognise.
Have you heard that Tony Braxton's sister, Tracy Braxton, passed away a couple of weeks ago of breast cancer? Yeah?
Yeah.
When you hear news like that, how does that affect you when you hear someone has passed away from cancer?
I think when somebody passes away from cancer, full stop, it's really sad. It fills me with sadness, regardless of ethnicity or who they are. Nobody envisages, thinks that that's going to be their future. I certainly didn't, So yeah, I'm totally sad. But I think when I hear of somebody within our community that passes away from cancer, does it affect me a little bit more? Absolutely, because maybe it's because it's closer to home, but also because, we have to look at what's happening out there. Black women breast cancer is one of the most funded cancers out there, and yet Black women still, we are always diagnosed at a later stage, always, you know, and we also have the highest mortality rate. And we actually need to start looking at that. And as much as we need to applaud the fact that breast cancer is, one of the most funded cancers and one of the ones that if you do, are supposedly that if you do get it, that you stand a very good chance of survival with. We need to start looking at that and thinking, well, okay, that's great, but how does it actually affect our community? And are we benefiting from that? And at the moment, the stats aren't in our favour. And we should be addressing that. As much as we should be applauding, we should be asking, well, why do we have the highest mortality rate still? And where is it being looked at? And why is it being looked at?
Right. We are coming up to a community break, so when we come back, we'll talk more.
Right. Thank you.
Welcome back to Spilling That Tea to Juliet G on supremefmlive.ning.com. And I am now in conversation with Judith Neptial, who is sharing her personal experience of stomach cancer and being told she only has 1 year to live. Can you imagine? Right.
Yeah.
Judith.
Yeah. Hi, Julie. Juliet.
Do you know what? I can't stand that name, Julie.
Oh, sorry.
No. Do you know what? Do you know the funny thing is, only my family call me Julie, right? Don't listen, people out there. Don't even try it. I will tell you to put that T on it, and that's Juliet. Yeah, I have this thing with the T's, don't I?
Yeah, definitely. Funny, the opposite in my house, because my name's Judith, but my mum only calls me Judith when
you're
she's
in trouble.
really angry at me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I used to be called Julie at home, and then Juliet when I'm in trouble.
Yeah,
Juliet, get down here now. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, you knew something was coming, and it wasn't good when it was the full name.
Yeah,
for sure.
So let's get back to this. Hold on, let me just turn this down. Right, Judith, do any of your family members have or had cancer that you're aware of?
I actually found out that my hold on, sorry.
Oh, what happened there? Hold on, people, hold on. She has gone, hold on. Hold on. Right, we have her back on the phone.
Sorry.
That's all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. You were saying.
No, my aunt, one of my aunts, funny enough, she had cancer, and she passed away, but that was many years ago. And then one of my cousins had cancer, Anita, God bless her, and she passed away not so long ago. So yeah, there's definitely a strong possibility of cancer being in the family,
Right. How supportive were your family and friends when you told them that you had cancer, or were they?
I think, it's very difficult when somebody receives a cancer diagnosis, because within our community, especially when we're told that it's terminal, because we don't really question. If a doctor turns around and says, oh, you're terminal, we kind of say, okay, and we work with that. We don't challenge that opinion. So people did what they thought was the best thing to do, which was to, embrace me, pray with me, and hold my hand. The issue I have with that is that I've always had a very challenging nature, and I chose not to accept what they told me, the doctors told me, you know. And at that point, I needed a different kind of help. I needed people to come in and research, because I wanted to fight to live. I mean, and I've said this before and I will say it again, I can die all by myself. I don't want to, but I can. But I definitely need your help to live. Um, and I felt at that point in time that not because people didn't want to help, it just wasn't the norm and they didn't know how to help. But definitely what I needed was probably it wasn't probably, it was what my daughter did. She got on the laptop and she researched. She refused to accept my diagnosis. At no point did she say to me, that's going to happen, or Mum, we need to prepare. If anything, she was like, we need to look for different options, Mum, and that's not happening. And I think because of her strength in doing that and refusing to accept it, I then fought. I fought harder than I've ever fought in my life. And I think, people, again, and that's something to do with us as a community. And I've said this time and time again to other people. If a car breaks down and you love that car and you take it to a garage and they say to you, oh, we're going to write that car off. You do not just turn around if you love that car and say, okay, let's write it off. You'll take it to 3 different car specialists and you'll get different opinions. Why is it when we're told by doctors that, our bodies aren't working or for whatever reason we're terminal, why do we just accept that? Why do we not go for 3 or 4 different opinions? Why would we treat ourselves with any less love than we do our cars? That baffles me. So for me, did I have the help? I had the help that people thought that I needed. But actually, it wasn't what I needed. It was what people thought. And I think we need to be careful, that when people do receive a diagnosis of cancer, that we make sure that we're there for them in the way that they need, not in the way that we want to be.
So when you say in the way that they need, because I know everybody's different and everybody receives support differently, how would you want people to support you?
For me, personally, I want people to support me by helping me to live.
And when you say to live, you're going to have to.
If somebody the other day, the reason why I've set up a group called From Me to You.
Yeah.
And that group basically it's about the experiences that I encountered in my journey of trying to live. And the issue with that was that, as I've said to you just previously, I needed help to live. So what I set the group up to do is to do the things that I needed. As a group, what we do is if somebody receives a cancer diagnosis, we will work with you in the way that you need. If you wish to accept that diagnosis and prepare, then we'll help you to do that. But if you wish to fight to live, then we will also do that. And I mean that we will get on the laptop and we will research alternative treatments. We will look at everything. We will look at treatments that are looked at by the hospitals. And if you want us to, we'll look at treatments that aren't. We're there for the person, not for the diagnosis. And that's what I think people need to, understand. When I was sick, there were 1,000,001 organisations that were there and prepared to help me to die, but not prepared to do the things that I needed to do to live. We've just had a lady, we've had a few people in our group that have had been diagnosed with cancer, and, it's not necessarily been favourable. And what we do is we will turn around and say to them, okay, well, what do you need us to do? And if that means getting on the laptop and looking for different trials that are out there and, presenting them to that person, then that's what we'll do. Because as a community, we don't engage in clinical trials. Not a lot, not enough, and we need to. We need to, be out there. We need to be looking at what else is available. I mean, when I was diagnosed initially, chemo didn't work for me. It worked for the first round, and then after the second round, I found, for me, I'm not saying for everybody else, because chemotherapy works for a lot of people. But in my journey, it wasn't an effective treatment for me after the first period. So at that point, I withdrew from that. And once I withdrew from chemo, I found that I was orphanless, in that no hospital, because I wasn't following this set procedure, worked with me. As a result, I had to fly out. I flew to Mexico and I received a treatment out there. And I'm not going to say that that cured me, because it didn't. But what it did do is it definitely gave me a different perspective. And it definitely enabled me to have more time. And for that, I'll be eternally grateful. I then came back to the UK, and my daughter and I researched, and we found a trial drug, which I went on, and I was on for 2 years, and I'm happy to say that I'm stable now. But that was a journey, you know, and it wasn't a journey where I sat down and just accepted. It was a journey of challenging different perspectives, refusing to listen and fighting to live. And, there were times during that journey, Juliet, where what nobody should go through is the fact that when I was first received my diagnosis and I said that I wanted to live, it was almost like it was a dirty word, because I was challenging the restraints or or the constructs that are out there. If somebody tells you, doctors say to you, you're going to die, you accept it. Well, no, why should we? Why should we? Especially when, we need to start looking, and I'm going to go back to the fact of, sorry to jump back to it, of breast cancer. We are, late, we're always diagnosed quite late. I was, and our mortality rates are far worse out there than other different ethnicities. And we need to be looking at that. We also need to be looking at the fact that, there was an article recently that came out in the Metro, and it categorically stated that black women and white women have a different DNA, and that our gene repairs in a different way. Well, off the back of that, that then must lead you to realise or to think or question, well then, if that's the case, the treatments that we receive, are they actually geared towards us?
Well, they wouldn't be, would they?
Well, this is it.
Because
and
if
they aren't,
people are not being clinically trialed, then how is it going to work? One size doesn't fit all, as we well know.
Yeah, absolutely. But then if that's the case, then we either need to engage more so that they are modelled to fit us, or alternatively, again, why aren't we asking the questions? Why aren't we saying, well, okay, we now know that we don't repair in the same way. What's being done about that? Because at the moment, the last time I looked, our mortality rate was the highest. And so therefore, surely we should be asking the question, shouldn't we?
Absolutely. How do you deal with life on a day-to-day basis?
I take one day at a time, and I thank God for every moment. I'm really grateful to be here. I don't take that for granted for a second. Every day for me is a bonus, But I also realise now the importance of, I know it sounds really silly, but when I received my diagnosis and they told me it was terminal, I remember thinking in my head, and I know this sounds really, really mad, but, well, what have I done? What have I achieved? And I didn't have the answers. And it was really quite, that was hard. So now I spend every moment, my days in trying to change something. I'm not going to say that I'm going to change anything, but I'm definitely going to try, And if that journey is to do with cancer, and helping other people within my community not to go through the same things that I went through, then that's what I'll do. You know, and that's how I live. I live my life trying to make the most of every day. And I think that's what we all need. You know, we can only, nothing's promised in this life.
Absolutely.
You know? So I think, you know, we just have to embrace what we have. You know, we have to embrace it. I embrace, I'm being, you'll think this is mad, but I even embrace doing the ironing now, because there was a time when I couldn't iron. You know, I embrace getting out of bed in the mornings, because there was a time that my daughter had to help me to the bathroom. And I took that for granted. I took getting out of bed and being able to go to the bathroom on my own. I thought that that was just normal. But actually, what I learned is that that's a privilege. That's a privilege, you know, and we need to realise that.
Do you know, you saying that, because like it just kind of like brought me to my mum, because my mum is seriously ill, and this was a woman that was able to get up and walk and do 2-3 jobs at a time back in the day. She looked after 5 children. She was kind of like, she was my superhero, my role model. She was able to walk, do whatever. When she got to about 80, you know, things kind of changed for her. And it was slowly, and like 5 years on, she now can't walk unassisted. She can't talk, right? So I'll never have that conversation. She can hear, but we can't have that conversation. And I think sometimes we take a lot for granted, because people are here. We assume, you know, I know that I do it, but for me, my priority is my mum. So anything that I'm doing, I'd have to bring my handbag with me. That's my mum. So if I'm coming out with me mum in a wheelchair. So, you know, you won't only just get me, you know, you will get my mum as well. So, because it is, you know, we do take a lot for granted. We'll say, oh, well, we should meet up, but we don't. And then by the time you look round, look, March is almost done, right? That is a quarter of the year gone, right? Next week, we would be in April. So look how time is flying. So, you know, we shouldn't take a lot for granted. And that kind of like leads me on to a question. Is you're pretty much a religious person. Did you ever question, why you? Why me?
I think everybody, you know, in the early days when I first had cancer, I did. I'd look around and think, well, I'm not that bad a person. Maybe that's a matter of opinion. But, you know, why me? Why would this happen to me? But I remember my mum, and it's funny that you mentioned your mother, because I remember my mother turning around and saying to me, and my mum is someone who has great faith, and she's the strongest person that I know. She's my hero. And she turned around and said, Judith, God would not give you anything that you could not deal with. And in that moment, I thought, you know what, she's right. I can do this, you know. But I think it took a while for me, and I'm not going to say that happened overnight, but it took a while for me to get there. But eventually I realised that, you know, not everything surrounding cancer is necessarily bad. Cancer is bad, but the things that come from it doesn't have to be. We decide our own futures. You know, you can either take something in a positive or you can take it in a negative. And my mum, again, I'm going to quote her, she used to say to me, Jude, in life, your glass is either half full or it's half empty. What kind of person are you going to be? Well, I choose for my glass to be half full. Yeah, that's what I work with. So yeah, that's how I choose to live my life. And I'm very blessed that I have what I do realise now is, you know, what cancer has done for me is it's made me see things very clearly. It's made me see what matters and what doesn't matter, who matters and who doesn't. You know,
Absolutely.
my family now, you know, when I was ill, it was my family. My brothers were the ones that came into hospital every single day, visited. Whether, you know, you don't have, we're not the type of family that, you know, are with each other every single day. But what I pride myself on now is knowing the fact that we are definitely there if we're needed. You
Well, you're
know,
very fortunate. You're very fortunate. And I clear my throat because that's not with all families, unfortunately.
no,
And
no.
I kind of like think, you know what, as you're talking, it kind of like dawned on me, like, what would happen, you know, to me, who, family wise. But anyway, I don't even want to go in because, like, that's just
Yeah,
opening a whole can of worms
I
that,
know,
it's
Sam.
like, it's going to
Yeah.
be opening like Pandora's box. And I don't think I can fit it back in all in 35 minutes. So let's not go there. Um,
Yeah.
the question that I want to ask, how did you cope during the pandemic?
To be honest with you, the pandemic was really hard because for me, I felt like, okay, I've been given a death sentence. They've told me I have under a year to live. And then they turned around and said to me, well, not only have you got under a year to live, but you've got to stay in for that year. And I was like, well, that's ridiculous. I've only got a year, but you want me to live that year indoors. You know, that was hard. It was really hard. And then being told as a cancer patient, or you know, that you're more vulnerable than other people. Again, that was hard. You know, the fear, um, you know, of getting that, and you know, it was, you know, you read about it, it was all in the news. You know, cancer patients are more vulnerable. You know, that when they get COVID, it's like definitely a death sentence, that kind of thing. So yeah, it was a really scary time, not just for me, but for my family as well. You know, and it for any cancer patient out there, it must have, you know, it was horrific. It's hard. You're frightened. You know, you're constantly, I can't describe it to people. It's almost like you're constantly looking over your shoulder. It's constantly in the back of your mind. You know, you never kind of quite get away from it. I can remember going to sleep at night and waking up, and for maybe about the first 5 or 10 seconds, I'd open my eyes and the world would be beautiful because it was just, I'd just open my eyes and be okay. And then within a couple of seconds, it would dawn on me and I'd remember that I had cancer.
Right, we're coming up to the community break, yeah? So stay tuned and we'll talk more after.
Thank you.
Welcome back to the last segment of Spilling That Tea to Juliet G on supremefmlive.ning.com. Now, as you well know, that I have been speaking to Judith for the past hour. So before we went to break, I asked Judith how she coped with the pandemic, and I want to ask her now, Judith, do you think people need to be a bit more educated about the various types of cancers there are out there?
Absolutely. You know, I thought when I was diagnosed with cancer initially, I thought, you know, you get cancer, everybody goes in, gets the same treatment, and everyone has the same chances. But that's not the case. You know, it's far from the case. Different cancers have different funding, you know, different amounts of research, and the outcomes are very different. You know, if you get one of the main four, which is breast, lungs, you know, I can't remember, bowel, I think something else, I can't remember off the top of my head. But if you get them, then, you know, there's a considerably larger amount of funding that goes into those cancers. Different areas have different funding. And, we have to be aware that where we live will also affect the type of treatment possibly that we have available to us. Different hospitals, what I found absolutely baffling, I didn't even realise this until my cancer journey, was that different hospitals have different specialities. You know, I didn't know that. And the reason I found out was because when I was diagnosed, I remember that they couldn't tell me what the primary cause of cancer was. And for anybody anyone who has cancer will know that the primary cause of cancer is very important because that really will be very indicative of the way that you're treated. So if they don't know that, you'll be treated in more of a general way. And I kept on asking, what is it? They kept on saying they don't know. They've tried and they can't find it. And then I did again research, and I found out that one of the top hospitals for finding unknown primary cancer was the Christie, which is in Manchester. And then that actually totally blew me away because I felt I was at one of the, quite a renowned London hospital. And I thought, well, if they don't know what my primary cause of cancer is, and the Christie is one of the top hospitals for that, it's not rocket science. Why wouldn't you send my file over for a referral, especially if it could help to save my life? That baffled me. So I then rang the Christie and said, look, could you look at my file? And they said to me, look, this is what the referral process is. And I did it. I had to push, but I sent my file over. And I remember constantly getting, comments from my team that I was under. You don't need to do this. It's not important. I sent it off to the Christie, and within a week, they came back and told me that the primary cause of my cancer was bile duct cancer. So why did I have to do that? Why hadn't my team done that? And that was the start. That was also a very important point in my journey, because then I realised that, hang on a minute, we have to engage in our care plan. We can't just leave it to the doctors. Obviously we have to trust them, and I'm sure that they have our best interests at heart. But we actually have to engage in our care plans ourselves, because nobody's going to care more about you than you.
Exactly.
And that's important. And we need to be talking about that more again as well. And we need to be talking as a community about, why do we have this issue that, when we're told something, we don't want to challenge, or we don't want to be seen as being difficult. And, I definitely had that thing about not wanting to be seen as a pushy black woman. But actually, hang on a minute, we're talking about my life here. So if there was ever a time for me to be pushy, I definitely think it was then. And we shouldn't be embarrassed about that.
Judith,
we shouldn't be embarrassed.
Judith, you mentioned the charity that you've set up. Can you tell us a bit more about it?
Yeah, basically, From Me to You is a London-based organisation, and it's a small team of people. Basically, the members have all had an experience of cancer, or somebody that they know that has had cancer very closely connected. And we meet together and we provide, support. We will provide relevant information about, end of life care. We'll talk to people about choices. We'll address the negative perceptions that are out there. And hopefully what we do is we provide a safe space for Black people to come to and to talk about their experiences honestly and not feel, I remember saying, I went to a cancer group, and I felt that there were issues around my care and that, between my GP and my consultant. And I did actually think, did my ethnicity have anything to do with that? And I remember going to, a cancer group and voicing that. And it was almost like, oh, well, no, of course not. Because it's the medical profession, obviously your ethnicity couldn't possibly be involved in that. Well, why not? And actually, I felt really uncomfortable about raising that. And I felt that, where do we go as a community when we have issues? Where do we have a safe place to speak about that and to say, look, is this anything to do with that? It may and it may not be, but let's have that safe space to speak about it. You know, let's address the issue of power and privilege. And, had the dynamics of power and privilege come into play subconsciously in the decision making that came about from my diagnosis of from me being diagnosed with cancer. Was that a fact? Was that a factor? I'm not saying that it was, but I don't think it should be. It should be difficult for me to have to talk about that. And we need safe spaces where people are going to look at the issues that affect us as a community. Because actually, we need to have those places because we're not, all ethnicities are not having the same results when it comes to cancer. And actually, as a community, we are faring far worse. So, isn't now the time that we should definitely be having those conversations? And shouldn't we be going into those safe spaces in order to know and find out what the issues are? Because if we then know what the issues are, we can address it with other organisations and institutions. But if we don't, even as a community, know what those issues are because we're not talking about it ourselves, how is that ever going to get looked at? How is it ever going to be solved? And actually, I'm quite passionate about it because, look at the numbers.
I can
They
tell.
say by 2030, 1 in every 2 people will be diagnosed with cancer. That's going to be someone's mum, sister, aunt, dad, father, brother. And if it doesn't affect you now, in the next 10 or 15 years, I hope to God it doesn't, but the chances are that it will.
What things do you avoid for your health, well-being, and sanity as a whole? What would you have to avoid?
Are you talking about, emotionally or food-wise?
Everything. Anything.
Okay. One of the first things that I did on my journey was that I started to look at my diet. And that was definitely one of the hardest things that I did, but it was also one of the first. I realized very early on that sugar feeds cancer. And so it baffled me that, on a course of, when you go and you get a diagnosis and you start treatment, that you're told to eat sweet, sugary things. That's feeding the cancer. I didn't understand that. I still don't quite. I then looked at the fact of greens. I ate a lot of greens. I changed my diet. I took out, carbs, white potatoes, white rice, anything like that. Anything that was processed, I went away from. And tried to, if I could, and I do understand that it's incredibly expensive, but if I could go for the organic choice, then I would. Because, the preservatives that go on to foods, I don't know that much about, but I don't know if they will help, if they helped. So I chose to cut it out. So that was definitely the first thing I looked at. Alcohol was another thing that had to be cut down. I'd like to say I cut it out, but I'm not that good. And one of the main things was anybody that had a negative mindset. If somebody brought negativity towards me, I would run for the hills. I didn't want to hear it and I don't want to know it. And I'm still like that now. If you can't bring positivity, then I'd rather you didn't say anything because I think having a positive mindset is paramount. I have to believe in my ability to get better. And if you can't believe in that with me, then I'm really sorry, but maybe, I'll see you along the way. So, yeah, positivity. I also looked at, to do with vitamins, herbs. A lot of the things that we have in our community already are really great, for building you up. Like sea moss is amazing. And that provides, our body needs, I think, something like 103 minerals. And sea moss provides 92 of those minerals. So yeah, I definitely went back to, basics. My mum would turn around and say to me, herbs, get some herbs and, boil them, the usual thing. Boil them, drink them, they're good for you. So yeah, I went back to basics. If it was natural, then I would probably veer in that direction. And if it was processed, I would kind of keep away from it. Yeah.
Are you currently working at the moment?
No, no, I'm not. I stopped working when I received my diagnosis because I used to be a phlebotomist part time and I was a psychotherapist. And phlebotomy I couldn't do because obviously health wise, standing up on my feet all day no longer became an option. I was too exhausted. And actually working as a therapist was not an issue because in order to work with somebody, you have to be whole as a person yourself. Um, and at that point in time, when you receive a diagnosis like that, I didn't feel very whole, and you have to be very aware of the damage that you can inflict to other people, if you're not aware of yourself. And I was fully aware that I wasn't in a place to be cancelling anybody. I probably at that point needed to cancel myself. Um, so yeah, I had to stop work, and I had to go on to benefits. And that's been really hard. It's been hard. It's been very hard. Um, because being sick isn't something that you ask for. It's not a decision that you make. You have no decision in that, but you definitely have to deal with the consequences. And I feel at the moment that the system is kind of geared. It's almost like one glove fits all. Um, and I do wonder, like where's the compassion in that?
I'm just really conscious of time. I've just got a few questions more to ask you. What advice would you give to anyone going through what you've been through or going through cancer?
My advice would be to believe in yourself. That's what I would tell somebody. Believe in your strength and believe that you know what's best for you. We all instinctively, if we actually go back to basics, know what's best for us. And if it doesn't feel right, then maybe you shouldn't be doing it. That's what I would go on. That's what I learned. I went with my gut instincts the whole way through, and they proved me right. And that's what I would say. And I'm not telling anybody who's diagnosed not to trust, the doctors and what they say, because of course you have to trust them. They're there to help us. But you also have to trust yourself for anything. And the other thing that I would tell them is to join a group, join that, I'm going to say my group from me to you, because that's the group that I belong to. But if you can't get with that, then there are other groups out there. Join them and start, having the conversation. Because together, if we, and I will implore people to look at it. If you don't, understand, go on the page, have a look. Because the thing is, if we don't start having the conversation, if we don't start speaking together and joining together, then we are leaving ourselves in a really vulnerable position. And we need to start addressing things. We have to start asking questions. Why are our figures so poor? Who's speaking up for us? Who's addressing this? And if the people that be are not addressing it for us, well, then maybe we need to look at that. It's time, isn't it?
Absolutely. Before I let you go, is there anything that you would like to say, and how can people contact your organisation?
Oh, great. I would just like to say to everybody, thank you for taking the time to listen to me. I really appreciate your kindness in that. And I'd like to thank you, Juliet, for having me on the show. and having such a candid and open, transparent conversation. Truly appreciate it.
You are
You made it
welcome.
really easy. You know, you really did. I'll probably come off air and think, oh no, I didn't say that. It was Juliet's fault. But I'm going to blame you, Juliet. But yeah, what I'd like to say to anybody and everybody out there, you know, whether if cancer's affecting you, you're not alone. You know, and there are organisations, there are people out there to help you. And if you don't want to use our organisation, then let us put you in touch with another organisation that can help you. Don't go through this on your own. And to the community that are not affected by cancer, I ask everybody, in fact, I humbly beg everybody, start to look at this. Please, please, please start to look at this, because while we're not looking at this, while we're not addressing this, people are dying. And it may not be touching you now, and I don't wish it on anybody. But you know what? This is getting closer and closer to everybody's door.
Yeah.
Please don't wait till it starts knocking.
Thank you.
And yes,
Go
sorry.
on. Have you finished?
Just from me to you, if you look that up, we have a Facebook page, we're on Insta, and we have a website. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Judith, for being so open and frank about what you have been through back in 2018, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because of your diagnosis, and as a result, you have set up something so selfless that others can come together and share their experiences with other people that have and are going through the same thing. And I wish you all the best with your projects and your continued good health, and keep being the lovely, strong soul that you are. And I'm sure the listeners will agree with me that you are a superwoman. And what can I say? And listeners, I'd just like to say that remember Ashley Rose, who was on my show some weeks back, and she will be coming back next week. This is her mum. This is Ashley's mum. So I might touch on this next. In fact, I will touch on this next week. How Ashley felt, you know, because it's. I think, as you said, we need to start talking about these things. And as coming from a young person's perspective, you know, what was it like for her?
Absolutely.
So, is she listening?
She absolutely is listening.
Hi, Ashley. So what are your plans for Mother's Day tomorrow?
Well, actually, that's another question that's going out to Ashley.
Well, I suppose it will be a surprise.
Well, yeah, and I'm going to get to my mum's, and I want to spoil my mum, because my mum's been absolutely... everyone has the best mum in the world, and I'm no different. You know, she's been awesome.
Good,
so, yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, so on that note, keep it supreme with me, Juliet G. And as I said, next week I will be in conversation with Ashley Rose. This is Judith's daughter, who will be bringing us news and information from a young person's perspective. So don't forget to set your alarm clocks, because you don't want to miss it. And don't forget that the clocks are going forward, so we lose an hour. Now, coming up next, we have DJ Ace in for Martin J. And from 12 to 2 p.m, we have Mosty G. 2 to 4, we have TLC. 4 to 6, we have DJ Lee. 6 to 8, we have Nigel B in for WJ Good Groove. And Goody, I apologise for waking you up so early. And from 8 till 10, we have Lloydie Banks. 10 till midnight, we have DJ Squeaky. And midnight till 2 a.m, we have Uncle Nut until he says so. And as always, thank you for tuning in each and every week and lending me your ears for the last couple of hours. And if you haven't done so already, you can follow me on Instagram, spilling that tea to Juliet G, and you will get updated with everything I've spoken about and things that I've commented on. So It's the same time next week for your Saturday morning fix. And wishing all the mothers and people, and I say people because some men play the position of mothers as well, that have stepped up into the mothering role, a very happy Mother's Day for tomorrow. Remember, tomorrow is not promised. So love and appreciate the people who are in your life, and most importantly, love yourself first. Don't nobody's negativity behavior live rent-free inside of you. Yes, don't let it. So see you all next week.
I can't stand no fake. Get on out my face. All you do is hate. Now you wanna say I'm your friend, do you like me? Cut it out cause you're lying. Why you wanna try me? I'm on, you can't deny me. I'm too much, I'm just too much for you. I'm too much, I'm just too much for you, baby. I'm too much for you, baby. Put me on a plane, airline, anything. No matter where you place me, you cannot replace me. Got it from the top, I'm filled with the lie. Love is real, not make-believe. Be careful with your hate for me. I'm too much, I'm just too much for you. I'm too much, I'm just too